Hello and thanks for joining us. Today's guest went from soccer mum of 4 to battling opioid and heroin addiction, landing in jail and losing custody of her children. But the journey didn't stop there. She's here today as a best-selling author, literary agent and ghostwriter who's working with remarkable figures like Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama. Her memoir, The Many Lives of Mama Love, is the story of how she turned her life around. Welcome, Lara Love Hardin. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
First of all, happy birthday.
Thank you.
You have come a long way. You're here because your book, A Memoir of Lying, Stealing, Writing and Healing, is being translated into French. How does it feel to have your story resonate internationally?
It's wonderful. I can't think of a better place to spend my birthday than Paris for the first time in my life. It's something I couldn't have imagined 16 years ago while I was in custody, in jail.
Now, Lara, you were living what many would call the American dream on the outside, a suburban mum, but for 15 years you were addicted first to opioids, then to heroin, and you funded this addiction by stealing from your neighbours and fellow mums at the school. How did life get to that point?
You know, in America anyway, there's 48 million people struggling with addiction and all the people that love them. And so my story began the way many people did. I had opiates prescribed to me, after childbirth. And the way they reacted in my brain, I became physically addicted, but I just felt like they made me braver and bolder and smarter and that I could connect with people more. And, one turned into so many until I couldn't get out of it. It just ran my life.
And so what was happening came to an end really in 2008 when you were caught. You faced 27 years in prison. You took a plea deal in the end, serving 10 months in jail. At the time, your youngest son, Caden, was only 3. Mm-hmm. You've got 3 older boys, Dylan, Cody and Ty. Tell us about this day of being hauled out of your suburban house in front of the neighbours when you were arrested.
Yeah, it was a day I still can see vividly. Part of me was relieved that it was over, that I was being stopped, but my son was taken by Child Protective Services and he was terrified, and I was handcuffed and couldn't comfort him, and that was really when I realized there was no going back. I couldn't fix this. My life had just imploded.
And in the book, you constantly say, this is my fault, I'm responsible. Mm-hmm. You really recognise that in the book. You went to prison. Inside prison, writing really became your salvation. You loved books all along throughout your life, but it was really in prison that your essays, poems, short stories, but as well as that, legal and personal correspondence for your fellow inmates. And you earned this nickname, Mama Love, which is, of course, is in the title of the book. Tell us about that name.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a nickname, first of all, in a women's prison or jail. And I was a mom with nowhere to put my mom energy. And, my best friend in jail was 19. My oldest son at the time was 17. So I had a lot of mom energy. And everyone has their skills that they trade with. And so I did start writing again. I started ghostwriting in jail, writing letters as the other women to the judges, broke up with some people, seduce some people, but I started writing again, and that felt good and valuable.
What was that experience like, a mom of 4 in jail?
It was horrific. I still have dreams that I have to go back for some reason, some mistake. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through and the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
It's helped you get clean.
It helped me get clean. It stopped me before I died. Not to be dramatic, but that's true. And it helped me become a better mother once I got out and got my children back in my life, because I was a more real mom. I wasn't pretending to be the perfect mom. I was just a real mom. I was more real.
When you were released, you did face enormous challenges as well, as so many people do with a criminal record, of course, to get a job, to find somewhere to live. But you did get your first job with a literary agency, and they never checked your references. Tell us about that job.
Yeah, so I answered a Craigslist ad for a job, and I wasn't sure if I was, if it was a real job or not, because it was a part-time literary agent. I thought it was the answer to my dreams. I got to be back in the world of books and writing, which I'd given up as a mom because it wasn't practical. I was a part-time assistant, 5 hours a week, And I thought it was the answer, to my prayers. When I left 12 years later, I was a CEO, and it was a big agency. But it made me feel mostly valuable, like I was doing good in the world and I was building a resume of goodness because I'd felt so bad for so long.
And you actually began ghostwriting for figures like Archbishop Desmond Tutu. You wrote 12 books in total. Another one was with Anthony Ray Hinton on his book, The Sun Does Shine. He was obviously wrongly sentenced to 30 years on death row. What were those experiences like with these incredible people? It
was amazing. And looking back, I can see the little bits I learned in my own growth, working with each of these authors. With Archbishop Tutu, I was working on the Book of Forgiving. I had no ability to understand how to forgive myself, but I was writing the book as him about self-forgiveness. I remember that chapter especially. I couldn't imagine it, but I was working on it. And, I was keeping my past a secret from all these amazing people and just kind of building my, again, that resume where I could prove to the world someday that I'm good. Look, I've worked with all these good people and done all this good work. But it was amazing.
And eventually you did decide to tell your story in your memoir. You said that shame is a poison worse than heroin. How did writing this book help heal you?
It helped me connect. The thing I was so afraid of for so long is if people knew the real me, if they knew my mistakes and my flaws and how inherently messy I can be, they would run the other way. It would drive people away. And it really did the opposite. It brought people closer to me, and it made people feel safe to tell me all their secrets. Everybody's struggling with something and has something they're ashamed of. And, secrets multiply in silence and shame.
And Oprah Winfrey, she's been a significant supporter of your memoir. What does it mean to have someone like Oprah supporting you?
It's amazing. There's being good and then there's being Oprah good, as I call it. And it felt very validating, and it shines such a spotlight, not on me and my story, but there are so many stories and so many women who are still locked up and who are struggling and who want to be seen and heard and valued. I never thought about incarcerated women until I became one. And so I feel like that's my job, is to help destigmatize and shine a light, because there's a lot of women struggling with mental health issues who, 80% of women locked up are mothers, and they 100% love their children, and they're just struggling and they need help and compassion.
There's even a pregnant woman in jail with you. Your sons played the central role in your determination to turn your life around. How's your relationship like with them now?
It's wonderful. They forgave me instantly. They just wanted to know I was okay. And I earned their trust. That's something I had to just keep showing up day after day, week after week, year after year. And, I'm biased, but they're amazing, wonderful human beings. And I'm sorry that my way of learning things the hard way is their, trauma story. But they've been very supportive with the book, with all of the things, and they've come to a lot of events with me. And they're, again, I'm a biased mom, but they're amazing.
You write about it in the book about your childhood trauma, and you've spoken about breaking the cycle of trauma for your children. What advice would you give parents out there who are struggling with their own past while trying to be good parents?
Yeah, again, I think that I became a better mother because I became real, because of what I went through. My children, there was nothing they felt they had to hide from me, that there was nothing they couldn't talk about. There was nothing their friends couldn't talk about. I became that adult that their friends felt safe to talk to, because how am I going to judge? I've made all the mistakes they've made times a million. So I think, when we pretend to be perfect, whether it's as a parent or a friend or a worker or a neighbor, it's isolating. It doesn't give people permission to ask for help. I never knew how to ask for help. I regret that. It took me a long time in life to learn how to ask for help. But community is what heals us. I really believe that.
You have co-founded the Gemma Project, which is to support incarcerated and formerly incarcerated women, an important organisation. You also have your own agency now, True Literary. Tell us what's next for you.
Well, I'm working for a novel. I'm really again dedicated to providing gender and trauma responsive services to women. 100% have histories of trauma who are incarcerated. 80% are mothers, and So I'm excited to be involved in that and, and to keep expressing my creativity. I'm going to work on a novel. I'd love to write for television. I feel like in many ways I'm just getting started.
Oh, well, your story really is testament to the power of resilience and self-forgiveness. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us. We always end our shows with, I guess, cultural pick of the moment. And you have chosen the Oscar-nominated film Sing Sing. It is, of course, a prison drama film about the redemptive power of theatre or art, another form of art for prisoners. Tell us more about it and why it touched you.
Yeah, I mean, it's about a wrongfully accused man, much like Anthony Ray Hinton, who's my favorite spiritual teacher in the world, who wrote the book The Sun Does Shine, who I helped. But it really is the power of art and theater and story to transform our circumstances and situation. And so I love that. I love that. I love the story of how stories save us.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's been a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have you. That brings us to the end of the show. We're going to leave you with Sing Sing. Lara Love Hardin's memoir, The Many Lives of Mama Love, is out in French now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Do you hear anything? Are you with somebody? Are you outside? Hold that feeling.